Hi, my name is Sanford Pearlman, and I am an alumni of the California Institute of Integral Studies, CIS. I attended the Community Mental Health Cohort 7, and Gia has asked me to speak a little bit about balance and how specifically to balance work and life and school and your practicum site. So I have a little bit of experience with that. I am a rehabilitation counselor with Alameda County, and I have been at Alameda County during the entire period at CIS. So it was definitely a challenge to figure out, how do I make all of this work? How do I do everything I need to do for my job, because I was pretty much brand new in my job at the same time. How do I get the grades that I want to get in school, learn what I need to learn to be able to be successful in the field, and also how do I make sure that I find the best practicum site, and how do I make sure that I make the most of that experience as well. So I thought about that a little bit, and I took a few notes. So I wanted to share some of my thoughts on what it's going to take you to be successful in balancing work and life and school. So the first thing is disclosure. Disclosure is so important because it lets other people know what we need, and it lets other people know how they can support us. So I would definitely have a conversation with your manager and with your professors here at school. There are things that you're going to need support in order to be able to accomplish, and that support is going to come from them. When I first started at CIS, I had a good conversation with my boss about what it was going to take for me to be successful. I knew that it was a weekend cohort, and I would need to take basically one Friday a month off for the entire school year, for the entire period of the program. And so she helped me navigate that. I was able to purchase additional vacation days, and I was able to do what I had to do to make sure that I had the time that I needed for school and for all of the work that I had to do to support my efforts. Without that conversation with my boss, she wouldn't have had an idea about what I needed, and she certainly wouldn't have known how to support me. Also, it's little things, like I have one meeting that ends at 4:30 in the afternoon, but in order to get to San Francisco in time to meet my client at my practicum site, I need to leave a little bit earlier to beat the traffic on the bridge. So I leave 10 minutes early, and so I asked her if I could leave at 4:20 instead of 4:30, and it's made all the difference. But without her understanding what I'm going through, and without her being aware of my needs, I wouldn't have been able to make that happen. And lastly, don't be afraid to talk about this, because the work that you're doing right now, the school work that you're doing, all the learning that you're experiencing, and then the work that you're doing at your practicum site is going to make you a much better employee. And that's what your employer wants. That's what your manager wants for you. Support. Similar to disclosure, but it's more about you personally and your efforts in school specifically. Make sure that you have the support of other people in your cohort, whether it's study groups or whether it's groups when you're working on a paper, whatever it is. Make sure you have someone who's keeping an eye out for you, and make sure that you're also paying attention to their process as well. If you isolate and you try to do everything on your own, there's gonna be a chance that you're not going to realize when you're struggling, and you're definitely not going to realize when you're not able to be successful. But your friends can see that. Your cohort mates can definitely see that, and they'll help keep you on track. All you have to do is ask. And having that support within the community, finding the community where you can find that support, it's absolutely critical as far as your success and your ability to reach all of the different goals that you have in this program. So that's an incredibly important point. The other piece of support is encouragement. Sometimes we feel like we're buried in work. Between work and school and a practicum site, we don't have any time for ourselves. And sometimes it takes someone else to say, hey, there's going to be light at the end of this tunnel. Just keep up the good work. You're doing great. You're doing the best you can. And sometimes that you need to hear that from someone else to believe it yourself. The next thing, plan. Be overly generous in your estimation of how long assignments are going to take. I'm definitely a person who procrastinates. And so I would basically wait as long as I could before I started the process. And I learned over time that that is not the best way to present myself in the best possible light. It's not the best way for me to do the best work I can. Make sure you have a plan, and make sure that you're constantly adjusting that plan, because a plan is only as good as the amount of time you spend reviewing it and making those adjustments. There were many times where I would really struggle to get started with a project. And when I looked at my calendar and saw how much time I had left, I would know whether I had to absolutely buckle down and get to work, or whether I could give myself a day, give myself some self-care, and wait 24, 48 hours before I started. But having that calendar, having that plan, I have a much better idea of what room I have to play with as far as assignments are concerned. And remember, you're juggling not just your schoolwork, but everything that you're doing at work and everything that you're doing at your practicum site as well. And so you have to make sure that it's all integrated and it all works together. And making sure that everything that you're doing is on your plan, so that there are no surprises. And then passion. I think this is probably the most important piece, or at least one of the most important pieces. Make sure that you're doing something that you absolutely love. Make sure you're doing something that wakes you up in the morning, that carries you throughout the day, and that puts you to bed at night. Make sure you're doing something that you would do whether you had to do it or not. Make sure you're doing something that you feel called to do. Because when you're doing something like that, when you're doing something that you're passionate about, you're not going to have to worry about forcing yourself to do it. You're going to want to do it. And it's going to be something that's almost coming through you versus something that you're forcing yourself to do. And if it's not something that you're passionate about, if it's not something that really calls you, you're going to put up all kinds of struggles against it. There's going to be all kinds of resistance, and that's important to listen to as well. But make sure that you're doing something that you absolutely love, and the work, honestly, will take care of itself. And that really is the most important piece, is when you're doing something that you absolutely love, it's almost like it's your task to bring whatever you're passionate about into form. If it's not something that you're passionate about, you're going to have all kinds of resistance, because it's not really your job to bring it into form. So, passion. And then the last piece is acceptance. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be a struggle. And there are going to be days when you want to just hang the whole thing up. There are going to be days when you want to quit. There are going to be days when you question why you even started on this path. And that's important to notice. But what's more important is to accept that this is just what you're going through right now, to not beat yourself up about it, to do the best job you possibly can. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail at certain things, and that's okay. That's all a part of this process. Just make sure you stick with it, and make sure you're not hard on yourself about it. One of the stories that I love from Buddhism is the story of the two eras. And the Buddha talks about the first era being the vicissitudes of life. The first era being what generally happens to us throughout the course of our lives, challenges, things that happen, struggles that we have. And that's fine. And that's what we experience as human beings. The second era is all the different judgments that we put on ourselves, all the different I could do it, I should do it, I would do it, all the different times that we beat ourselves up, all the different self-flagellation that we do. That's what we don't need, and we really don't have time to do that if we're going to try to get through work and school and practicum. So leave the judgments aside, accept that you're going to fail, accept that it's going to be tough, and just do the best job you possibly can. I came to this field after working in the corporate sector for a long time, about 15 years. And at some point, I recognized that it was not my passion I was working in finance to help people make money. What is my passion is to do the work that I'm doing right now as a rehabilitation counselor, helping people find jobs and keep those jobs, and as a therapist, helping people manage the struggles in their life. And this is the place where you're going to learn the skills to live the life that you've always wanted to live, the life that you always knew that you would live. And so remember that. Remember the big picture. Remember why you're here. And remember what you have in front of you. I wish you the best of luck, and I'm sure that you're going to be successful.